Okay, hello folks, I'm Lauren. I'm recording this from my home to yours. We are going to talk about attachment today. So we're going to talk a little bit about what attachment is, how it's formed, how it's expressed in times such as these when there's more stress, what you can do to know what's old in terms of attachment and what's actually happening in the here and now in your relationships, and then some tangible exercises for what you can do for yourself to show up as your best self in relationship, and then some things that you can do to deepen your connection and sense of safety in relationship with others. Okay, so what is attachment? Attachment is formed through relationship. So this can be all-encompassing, but most of our relationship is done with other humans. And so our attachment foundation, most of that is formed between the ages of 0 and 4. I'm just going to make sure this is actually recording. Oh yeah, we're good to go. Okay, so most of our attachment foundation is formed between ages of 0 and 4 and from our caregivers, because at that age, that's who we depend on the most. And so that's who we look to for that sense of security and safety. And if for whatever reason, if we're not getting that, that's going to tell us a certain thing about how is it safe to attach to people. Whereas maybe you're getting too much, like maybe you had very overbearing caregivers. That's going to tell you something different and how you need to attach and what's an appropriate way to keep yourself okay in relationship with others. And then some of us were fortunate enough to have caregivers that were more secure in your attachment. So that's like kind of where you want to land, that more balanced place. And no one is completely secure in your attachment, but that's the middle ground. So you have the secure in the middle. On one end of the spectrum, you have more of that anxious attachment. So this is folks that always need to be in connection and communication with those that they're in relationship with, that always need to figure out the answer now. Conflict is really uncomfortable for them. Tension, other people's big emotions are really uncomfortable for them. And then on the other side of the spectrum, so on the opposite side of anxious attachment, you have avoidant attachment. And so this looks like folks who it seems like pretty easy for them to peace out when things get rough. Their mode of coping with big emotions or tension or conflict is just to avoid it, hence the name, avoidant attachment. So we all have our own way of attaching with people, and like I said, most of this is formed from our early interactions with our caregivers, but can be greatly affected by other big relationships in our life as we move through life. And we carry this with us, right? And that can be kind of scary sometimes, especially if you're a parent or in intimate connection with others, is if your attachment foundation isn't super sturdy or isn't how you want it to look, that's going to affect how you show up and parent and what kind of relationship you provide for those around you. But the nifty thing about humans is that we can change a whole lot. So our neuronal connections, how our body and our nervous system experience the world, can be altered. And how that altering happens is through you just being mindful of what your attachment foundation is, and practicing new ways of being in relationship. So that's kind of the short on attachment. There's some great books out there, podcasts, things like that. If you're looking for any other specific information, feel free to reach out to me. more than happy to talk about it or send you in any particular direction. It's obviously something I care about. And I think it's really important. And ultimately, like, the more mindful you are about your attachment foundation, the more choice you're going to have in how you show up in relationships. And relationships are important, especially in times like this when we don't have as much choice in who we're interacting with and in how we're interacting. So the people that we are interacting with, we want to do it in a way that feels good and healthy for yourself and for them. So a couple points of reflection. The first one is reflecting on what you know from your own life from that time of 0 to 4, and then also any other big relational points on your own history or your own timeline that you feel like had an impact on how you relate to others. So what I would like you to do is take a paper and pen. If you want to grab any coloring utensils, whatever works for you. And what I would like you to do is just to create a little timeline for yourself. So really focusing on what you know of that time from 0 to 4, and then also any other big relationships. And just thinking, maybe just writing a name or a certain memory on that timeline. And what is it? Like, what were your takeaways looking back on that memory or that relationship? What were your takeaways in terms of attachment? What did that relationship teach you? Did it teach you that you needed to keep yourself at a distance to stay safe? An example of this would be relationships where there was like some lack of attention or focus from a caregiver. So this could be like full-on neglect. This could also be a parent who had some kind of addiction, a parent who has ADD, a parent that was gone a lot for work, things like that, where as a kid there was always a sense of not getting quite as much as you needed. So that kind of relationship would teach you to fall, or that it was more safe to be on that avoidance side of the spectrum. And then relationships that would teach you to be on that more of that anxious side could be really like emotional or anxious caregivers, caregivers that you never quite knew what they were going to do, so you always had to keep tabs on them and stay really checked in with them. Things such as that. So I'm just going to keep on rocking and rolling through this. But what I want you to do is either just take a note of that or come back to this. I will have some handouts that go with this video so that you can come back and do these exercises. Or if you just want to pause me right now and go ahead and do that, whatever works best for you. So once again, creating that timeline, what were the main relationships and what did they teach you about how it was safe to be in relationship? And also that some of them taught you that it was okay to be in relationship and you could relax, right? Secure relationships are possible. That's why we're here and talking today. Okay, so that is exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is I want you to again to draw. So drawing, you're thinking about your household or your most intimate connections and relationships, like what's kind of making up your relational map right now, and I want you to go ahead and create some kind of depiction of that. So it could be a literal map. It could be drawings. I mean, you could be represented by a triangle. No one's going to look at this. Doesn't matter what it looks like. But what I want you to do is include the people that are in your relational circle and create a map. So how far are you away from different people? How would you maybe depict that with some people there's more tension, maybe some people are really close, some people are above others. And so that will be your next exercise. So you go ahead and pause me here or come back to this. I'll have a little note of the exercises that you can look back on. And so with the idea with this is what I want you to notice is how far apart were the different relationships in your relational map, and specifically looking at where you are, right? Because that's what we're here today to talk about, is to really just focus on you. And so where are you on that map? Are you where you want to be in relationship to other people? Are you really close to some? And maybe you need more space, or maybe other people in your relational map you want to be closer to. And just noticing those things. We'll talk a little bit of what are some ways that you can alter that. But really the first step in anything is just that mindfulness and just noticing what is and reflecting on where you are in your relationships. And where are those places of discomfort and where are those places of ease. Okay? Okay. Looking at my notes here. Yeah, and I think also in looking at this relational map is noticing, what places are the most comfort for you, and how much that is in relationship to that attachment foundation we were talking about. Like let's say right now, like it feels pretty nice because you have so much more space from people, because you just can't see and interact and have such intense relationships with people. My guess is if that's the case, nothing wrong with it, but if that's the case, that you might fall on more of that avoidant side of the attachment spectrum. Whereas maybe right now, looking at your map, I'm like, oh, I have all this space from people and it makes me so anxious. I just want people to be right up here all the time. Like my ideal map is like we would just be stacked on top of each other. In that case, you're probably more on that anxious side of the spectrum. And again, that's not good or bad. It's just important to be aware of. Because it's tiring to constantly show up in the same way in relationships, and they ultimately don't turn out the way we want them to if we don't have that ability to be flexible and kind of move from anxious to avoidant to secure, depending on the situation. I'm sure you all can think of someone in your life who is constantly showing up in more of that avoidant way or more of that anxious way. And it's hard. It's hard to be in relationship with people that are like that. So kind of taking that microscope, what's the magnifying glass, that's the word I'm thinking of, taking that magnifying glass and applying it to yourself. Like, how is it that I commonly show up in relationship? And is that always useful for me? And is that coming from a place of choice in the here and now? Or is it coming from that attachment foundation? So it's really distinguishing between what is old, aka the attachment foundation, and what is happening in the now. And am I showing up how I want to? Am I showing up in the way that my caregivers taught me to? And is that actually useful? And going back to why we're talking about this right now is when there's times of stress or transition, our attachment wounds and our attachment foundation are like activated. They're right there in our face between us and our people. So it's always important to be aware of how we're relating to people, but especially in times of a lot of stress, because it's gonna be more up for us. Alrighty. Okay. So what can we do about this? Especially right now. Like, what are some little exercises that you can do from the comfort of your home to to attend, to do some of that growth work on your attachment style, and then also like what are some ways that you can practice of attaching with people in different ways. So I'm always going to come back to it. So the first step is just to notice and be mindful. And the first place that shows up is, taking a step back and being like, okay, what part of myself am I attaching from? Or am I attaching from this more anxious self or this more avoidant self? And just being aware of that before we go into interactions. So let's say we have felt slighted or distanced, or there's some kind of tension with someone. Before we react, let's just take a breather, take that magnifying glass and look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we coming from an anxious place? Is that why I'm like, hey, tell me what's going on, what's happening? I'm not going to leave this conversation until we clear this conflict out. Or am I coming from this more avoidant self of like, haven't called them in a month, been thinking about them, but I don't think I'm going to reach out, right? And being like, that's curious. Normally you talk to them every other day. Why all of a sudden have you not been talking to them? Oh, I'm being avoidant. Why would I be avoidant? Is that actually about what's happening in this relationship, or is that my attachment foundation talking right now? So that mindfulness and just noticing how you're showing up. And then once you do that, it's like, okay, how can you get back to more of that secure place? And, we all have our different ways of coping and self-care and taking care of ourselves. We're not going to talk a whole lot about that. I am going to finish up the video today with an exercise that you can just do for yourself to get to that place of more groundedness and ease. So whatever works for you, whether that's going for a walk, getting out in nature, taking a bath, reading a book, connecting to your spiritual or religious practice, whatever it might be, that's going to really take you back to that place of ease. I'm okay, I'm safe, I have choice in my life. Because when you connect to that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to connect then outside of yourself in that more secure way. Take a little sip of water here. Okay, so some tangible ways that you can work on your connection and practice different ways of being in connection with others during this time. And these things can be done over video calls, in person with your coworkers, those in your home, whatever makes sense for you in your life. Okay. So these first couple ones, I'm definitely drawing a little bit on my work with kids. So they're great to do with kids, but you can do them with other adults as well, because it's really good for us adults to be playful and silly and be lighthearted. So a couple little ways that you can fortify that connection and that sense of safety with people, especially when there's just huge stressness going around you, is create that protective bubble of connection around you. So ways to do that is matching each other. So one way to do that is just play little games of I'm gonna make a funny face, then you're gonna make a funny face, and then then I'm gonna match your funny face, and going back and forth. Another way is showing your best dance moves and having the person match that. So in doing that, and then another way of doing it is matching cadence. So so what that could look like is standing across each other and marching in the same cadence, or with little kids bouncing them in the same cadence as you. And so what that's doing is our bodies are going to match up and connect. So all all the things going on inside our bodies, like nervous systems, all of that. And so if you're able to come from that secure place, that person that you're doing these matching body movements with is going to be able to come to that secure place as well. And so if you're both able to come to a relationship in that secure place and have an experience together from that secure place, that's where the magic is. And that's where we can increase that connection and increase that feeling of safety. Another way to do this that's a little, taking like a little deeper, I guess. Who I have right now is my dog. So let's see if I can get her to participate. Nani, come here. Come here. Nani, here. Nani. Here she comes. Make sure we get her in the frame. Come here. There we go. You sit. Sit down. Sit down. Good girl. Okay, so what I'm going to do, show with Nanu here, is another way that you can increase that connection and capacity for safety in a relationship. And so what we're going to do is some bilateral tapping. And so what you can do is you can take the same position, head up, with your loved one or co-worker, whatever it is. And what you can do is you can tap like this. It's called a butterfly tap, and you're just tapping slowly, one shoulder then the other. Depending on your relationship with someone and if it feels safe for them, you can also tap on them. So that's what I'm going to do with Nanu here. I'm going to tap on one shoulder, then the other. It's just nice and slow. Because what we're doing here is we're also deactivating the nervous system, which again makes it easy for us to attach from that secure place. And so what I'm going to do, it's kind of funny that I'm using a dog, but what I'm gonna show you is, or what I'm gonna demonstrate is, or what I want you to do with your person is you're just gonna tap slowly back and forth, either on them or you're both gonna go like this. You're just gonna look into each other's eyes and you're gonna tell that person or animal what you appreciate about being in a relationship with them. And so this isn't things like what they look like or how good at school they are or how much you like it when they do the dishes. This is like the context, the substance of what is between you and them. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, okay? So you just start tapping back and forth. Nanyu's not choosing to really look me in the eyes, but that's okay. She seems okay with this. Okay, so Nanu. What I enjoy about being in relationship with you is that you always remind me to be present. You do this by how excited you get every time you eat, and every time someone walks in the door. Sorry, I'm talking to you. And also how excited you get when I let you up in bed to snuggle. And something else I appreciate about being in a relationship with you is how fun you make life. How you're always up to go outside and come up and give me a big kiss when it's not expected. Yeah, those are all things I appreciate about being in a relationship with you. I'm so glad that you're in my life. I think it's making her a little uncomfortable. You can't see her eyeballs, but they're all over the place. So that's kind of silly an example, but you know, animals are really important. I'm a big believer. I hope you can take that seriously. But it can be a really beautiful thing to do with whoever's in your life. And what it's doing is just reminding them of not those like value-based things that you appreciate about them, but like why you are actively choosing to be in their life and why you appreciate your connection with them. And by doing that with the bilateral movement, what you're doing is de-escalating their nervous system, and then you're also activating their right and left brain, so it's working together so that it can more easily form new neuronal paths, and also that it can more easily file away less secure relationship memories. So ideally, either, your excuse, my friend, ideally either, you know, you're tapping on each other, so it could be tapping on each other's legs, or you're looking at each other and bilaterally tapping. Because also this can be like a healing or a new way of practicing of being in relationship for you as well. So the more that you're doing that bilateral tapping as you're experiencing something new, the more likely that you're gonna like fortify those new neuronal paths. So add to that attachment foundation in whatever way you have that. Yeah, and I think in times like these where things are so uncertain and there's so much anxiety going around, it can be really helpful to just slow down and really, you know, take that care to think about what is it that you appreciate about your relationships with people, and what is it that can bring that sense of safety and security right in your own environment and right in the connections you already have. All right. Okay, and then also in terms of attachment, especially if you fall more on that anxious side of things, separation and distance and space is also healthy in relationships. I know for some that can be really hard to find right now, but in whatever way you can do that. So whether it's hopping in the shower, going for a quick walk, whatever it might be, allowing yourself, if you need that practice, so those anxious attachment folks out there, taking that practice to just notice what it's like when you are alone, and just letting yourself know, like, I am safe, my relationships are safe, I don't need to feel anxious right now, I actually can feel safe in just being by myself, and I need to be able to trust the people in my life and the relationships I have, and just reflecting on what it would be like to approach those relationships in a less anxious way. Okay. And this last thing that I'm going to close out with, it's a great way for yourself to find that place of ease and calm if you don't have access to it. And so by that, I mean if your environment isn't safe, if you're not able to get any space, if you're not able to get any connection, whatever it is that's not making you feel safe, this can be a way that you can just get a taste of that and remind your body and your emotions that it is possible. And then, so I'm going to guide you through this to finish up this video, but this last exercise we're going to do, it can also be something that you do with those that you're working on your relationships with. So let's say your child and you are in an environment that isn't safe and isn't relaxing, and or it's really hard for them to not feel anxious right now with how life is. Creating this imaginary place that you can connect in and create safety in can be really helpful. So, and in doing it, again, we're going to use that bilateral tapping. So again, that's going to calm the nervous system and just fortify that your body can have this experience of calmness and ease. Okay? So this is our last exercise. So what I want you to do is to get in a comfortable position, and take another sip of water while you're doing that. Okay, so go ahead and get in a comfortable position, and I want you to either close your eyes or find a resting place with them. And then just experiment a little bit with what's the best way for you to get that bilateral tapping. So it can be like this with a butterfly hug, which is nice, giving yourself a little hug. Nice and slow. Or you can do it on your legs. You can do it with your feet tapping. Just remembering to keep it nice and slow. And then also, if you're doing it on your legs, you can just follow whatever hand is tapping. So if I was to be tapping on my knees, I'm just letting my eyes go back and forth. I'm probably even going a little fast. So it's nice and slow. Okay. So once you find whatever method is best for you, I just want you to take yourself to your breath and take a nice breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then this time I want you to take it in through your nose and out through your nose. And now I want you to take your attention inward. And just notice what's going on inside there. Is your mind moving fast? Is there a certain place in your body where you're feeling more tension? I'm not here to change anything. We're just here to notice. How might you describe that tension? Is it hot? Cold? What shape or color would it take? Is it moving? And you're just noticing. And now I'm going to offer you a place of calmness and relaxation. When you do this exercise for yourself or others in the future, you might have another place in mind that you've actually been, where that really connects you to that place of calmness. I'm just going to offer up a suggestion today. Today, we're going to go to the beach. So, we're going to walk out on the sand. We're on the part of the beach where the sand is loose. It makes that squeaky noise. You can feel it flying up around our ankles as we walk. saltiness and stickiness, the moisture in the air. You can feel it on our skin. And you keep walking down the beach, closer toward the water, passing the tide line and walking along it, with the ocean to your right, looking down at what the ocean's brought in. Still tapping slowly. I want you to notice what you smell. Maybe it's some ocean funkiness. Maybe it reminds you of something else. But we're just staying here, at this beach, in this walk, creating a little bubble around this place. And in this bubble, we get to be calm and have a feeling of safety. And we only invite what we want to invite into this bubble, and only who we want to invite. Only things that are going to help us feel calm and safe. And so maybe it's just you. Maybe no one else needs to be there. I just want you to notice what you hear. Maybe you feel the breeze on your skin, moving your hair. Now I want you to take your focus back to your body. And where is that source of calmness and ease? And how might you describe that? How might it look in your body? What color and shape? Is it warm or cold? Now I want you to see if you can have that place of calm or ease, have it grow and slowly move throughout your body. Filling up every place that it can reach. Breathing into that feeling of calmness. That it's okay to relax. That right now, in this moment, in this little beach bubble, I'm okay. And just have that feeling continue to grow. We're going to pause there. I want you to go ahead and open your eyes. Bring yourself back into whatever room you're in. Noticing what's around you. Noticing how you feel right now. Are you able to maintain that feeling of calmness? Can you still identify where its source might be? And how can you stay connected to that? Because that is what's going to allow you to show up in your most secure way in your relationships, And that's the place that's going to remind you that you can come back to that calmness and that ease, no matter what's going on in your life. Okay. Well, thank you for joining and going through the journey of this video with me. Yeah, if you have any questions based on what I talked about, or any follow-up thoughts, or looking for any resources on this, please reach out. Once again, my name is Lauren. I have a counseling practice, or work for a counseling practice in town called Healing Roots. You can find me there. Yeah, and just reach out if you have any questions. Be happy to talk. Okay. I hope you are all well, and I hope you have some time to